At 8 to 12. That morning, my sister texted me one line that ended 15 years of family peace. I'm quitting my job. You'll take care of us while I figure things out. No greeting, no guilt, just expectation. I wiped my hands, stared at the message, and typed 4 words I'd never said before. That's not on me. Then I opened my laptop and signed the overseas contract waiting in my inbox. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up again, Mom. But what she wrote next didn't just test my patience. It forced me to choose between blood and freedom. Before we dive in, hit like and tell me, have you ever been the responsible one who finally said no? When people say family keeps you grounded, they don't mention how heavy the ground can feel when you're the one holding everyone up. I've always been that person. Emma Pierce, 32, operations manager, the human equivalent of a spreadsheet. My parents called me the stable one. What they meant was the one who never says no. Our family dinners looked warm from the outside, a roast in the oven, football humming from the living room candles, flickering against framed photos of vacations we couldn't afford without my credit card. But beneath the calm, everything was measured: my time, my paycheck, my patience. Mom would pass the bread and say, "You know, your sister's creative spirit just needs support right now." Translation. Jenna's latest failed dream had a new invoice attached. Dad would grunt from behind his beer. Emma grabbed the check, "Will you?" as if it were tradition, carved in stone. And Jenna Hare, perfectly undone voice, syrup sweet, would smile like she'd earned another subsidy. I'd sit there pretending the math didn't sting the rent. I quietly covered the insurance. I paid the vet bills for her dog I never met. My phone was full of reminders labeled family bills, a list that used to make me proud. It meant I was useful, dependable, the glue. But lately, that glue felt more like handcuffs. Mom liked to say, family evens out in the end. She never saw that even meant I bled a little more every time someone else made a mess. I tell myself it was temporary, that Jenna would finally get her act together. But she never did, and somehow I was always the safety net. Even Mike, my boyfriend, patient and kind, had started to notice. "You know they don't love you because you fix everything right," he'd said once. "They love you because it's convenient." I'd laughed it off, but his words stuck, quiet and sharp. The last Sunday dinner I went to, I remember Jenna breezing in 20 minutes late wearing an outfit that cost more than my week's groceries. Mom hugged her like she'd returned from war. "You've had such a hard week," she cooed. I poured the wine, pretending not to hear. Later, when Mom leaned close and said, "You're lucky, Emma. You don't need anyone to take care of you," I smiled the way people do when they're swallowing fire. That night, I opened my notes app and scrolled through the debts again, each entry a little confession I'd never made out loud. The list went on: phone plan, utilities, car insurance, apartment deposit. It wasn't just money. It was proof of how far I'd go to keep the peace. I didn't know it then, but peace was exactly what I was about to lose and somehow finally gain. It started small, like all cracks do. A late payment here, a "can you just spot me till next month" there. But by that fall, every favor had turned into a standing order. My family didn't even ask anymore, they expected. Then came the morning Jenna announced she'd quit her job. She made it sound poetic, like a declaration of self-love. It was toxic, she said at dinner, stabbing her mashed potatoes like a martyr. "I'm focusing on my mental health." Mom clasped her hands, eyes shining. "That's so brave, sweetheart." I stared at my plate. When I'd taken a single sick day last year, Mom said I was being dramatic. Jenna's boyfriend, Caleb, grinned across the table. "She's building a brand, something creative." Dad nodded proud. "Faith, that's what matters." I wanted to ask if Faith could pay rent, but I bit my tongue. After dinner, Mom pulled me aside in the kitchen. "Honey, Jenna's going through a hard time," she whispered, like it was breaking news. "She just needs a little runway." You understand. I did understand. That runway was paved with my paychecks. That night back in my apartment, I sat in the dark with only the hum of the fridge for company. My notes app was open, payments, bills, insurance, deposits. I scrolled through the numbers until they blurred. It wasn't a ledger anymore. It was a map of my own exhaustion. 2 weeks later, the text came, the same one that cracked everything wide open. 8 and 12 a.m. The morning light was soft, harmless. My phone buzzed on the counter. "I'm quitting my job. You'll take care of us while I figure things out." No greeting, no guilt, just assumption. I stared at it for a long time, toothbrush still in my mouth. For years, my instinct had been to fix, to send money, to smooth over the chaos. But something in me shifted. Maybe it was Mike's voice echoing in my head. "You've been paying for permission to be loved." I wiped my hands, opened the message, and typed 4 words. "That's not on me." My fingers trembled as I hit send. It felt like pushing a button that could blow up the only bridge I'd ever known. Silence. No reply. Just the faint hum of the bathroom fan and my own heartbeat. I walked into the living room, still half stunned. On my laptop screen was the Dublin contract I'd been too afraid to sign. I hovered over it. For months, I'd made excuses. Mom would panic. Jenna would crumble. Dad would guilt trip me. But not this time. The moment I pressed sign, a tiny notification blinked, document completed. It was quiet, almost anticlimactic, but I felt something unclench deep inside me. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up again, Mom. I didn't open it right away. I just stared at her name glowing against the screen, and I swear the air shifted. Whatever came next, I already knew it wouldn't be love. It would be the price tag for saying no. Mom's text came exactly 10 minutes later, like clockwork. If you won't help your sister, don't come to Thanksgiving. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. For years, those words would have crushed me. Not because I cared about the turkey or the small talk, but because exclusion meant guilt, and guilt was how they kept me in orbit. But this time I laughed, softly, almost in disbelief. That's supposed to scare me, I whispered to no one, but it feels like freedom. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and looked at the contract confirmation still glowing from earlier Dublin. Housing included. Start date, Monday. It felt like a life I'd only daydreamed about now, quietly waiting for me to choose it. For the first time, I realized my family didn't just drain my bank account, they drained my ability to imagine life without them. That was about to change. I opened another tab, my online banking. My pulse quickened, not from fear, but focus. One by one, I scrolled through the recurring payments I'd carried for years. The family phone plan, Jenna's car insurance, utilities tied to my parents' house, cancel, remove, deactivate. Each click was small but seismic. I half expected lightning to strike or Mom to burst through the door. Instead, there was only silence. Clean, almost peaceful. My phone buzzed again. A voicemail from Aunt Rose. This time, sweetheart family gives and receives. Maybe you can give a little more this season. God will bless you back tenfold. Delete. Mike called later that night. His voice was warm, steady. You did it, didn't you? I think so, I said. I finally said no. You didn't say no, he corrected gently. You said yes to yourself. That line stuck. After we hung up, I started a new document labeled Exit Plan. I typed it in bold. Underneath, I listed every step like instructions for survival. Remove my name from their phone plan, unlink Jenna's car insurance, cancel utilities at the parents' house, freeze shared credit lines, transfer savings to a new account. Each line tightened a knot I hadn't realized was still loose. When I finished, I sat back and exhaled. For the first time in years, my life didn't look like a to-do list written for someone else. Still, the old habits tugged at me. I kept checking my phone, expecting Mom to call, expecting an apology that never came. By midnight, 23 unread messages blinked on my screen. None of them said, I'm proud of you. Most said some version of, you'll regret this. Maybe I would. But regret at least would finally belong to me. As I shut my laptop, the Dublin contract notification blinked again, a reminder. Flight confirmed. 5 days. I whispered it out loud, testing the sound. 5 days till freedom. Mom didn't wait long to escalate. By the next morning, my phone was a war zone. Group texts, missed calls, guilt dripping from every message. Mom, family meeting tonight. Dad, we expect you here at 7. Jenna. Don't make this harder than it already is. It was astonishing how fast they could turn, please help, into how dare you. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing the simplest answer of my life. I won't be there. Almost instantly, the typing bubbles appeared. Mom, you will. Jenna, you're unbelievable. Dad, watch your tone. I silenced the chat and turned my phone face down. The quiet felt holy. At 6:52 p.m., the doorbell rang anyway. When I checked the peephole, Dad stood there, still in his work shirt, jaw tight. Open the door, Emma. No, don't play games, I'm not. He muttered something under his breath about disrespect, but I didn't move. Finally, the footsteps faded down the hall. I locked the deadbolt twice, leaned against the door, and let out a shaky breath. They weren't coming to talk. They were coming to win. The next day, Mom tried a softer weapon. A voicemail, her tone sugar-coated and trembling. Sweetheart Jenna's trying her best. She needs a little support just this once. Think about what family means. I deleted it halfway through. By evening, I got a FaceTime call. The family conference. I almost didn't answer, but part of me wanted to see their faces, wanted to finally stop pretending. When the screen lit up, all three were there. Mom in the kitchen, Dad at the head of the table, Jenna beside her, with swollen eyes and perfect lighting. Caleb hovered in the background, pretending to fix something on his phone. Emma, Mom, started softly, "Can we please talk like adults?" "I thought that's what I've been doing," I said. Jenna jumped in. "You embarrassed us. You made me look like a beggar. I didn't make you anything," I replied. "You sent a demand, and I declined." Her lips trembled. "You don't believe in me. You never have." That one stung, not because it was true, but because it used to work. "Jenna," I said carefully, "belief isn't a bank loan." Caleb chuckled low and condescending. "She's so uptight. No wonder you're single half the year." My voice didn't rise. "Caleb, do you even hear yourself?" he smirked. "Just a joke." Mom cut in sharply. "Enough. Emma, your sister's business could change her life. She just needs someone responsible on paper. Dad leaned forward, hands clasped. It's not even risky. It's a small loan, 150 tops. You'll co-sign, that's all. That's all. I repeated, letting the words sink in. You're asking me to guarantee a $150,000 loan for someone who quit her job last week. Mom's voice hardened. Don't be dramatic. We raised you better than this. I felt something snap, not anger, just clarity. You didn't raise me to say yes. You raised me to survive saying no. The silence that followed was thick enough to touch. Dad's face flushed. Watch your tone. I am, I said evenly. It's calm. Mom's eyes narrowed. So that's it. You're walking away from your family. I'm walking away from being your financial plan. Jenna started crying, mascara pooling at the corners of her eyes. You're punishing me for being different. I'm setting boundaries, I said. There's a difference. Mom slammed her hand on the table. You'll regret this, Emma. I nodded once. Maybe, but I'll regret it on my own dime. I ended the call. Seconds later, the group chat exploded, paragraphs from mom threats, from dad emojis, from Aunt Rose. One message from Jenna, you destroyed this family. I didn't reply. I turned off notifications, opened my exit plan, and started checking boxes. Removed from phone plan, unlinked insurance, canceled utilities, closed shared credit line. Each completed task felt cleaner than the last. By midnight, 43 missed calls blinked on the screen. None from Mike, he knew. When the phone rang again, I finally picked up. Hey, he said quietly. You sound lighter. I think I'm just done, I said. Then do something about it. Not for revenge, for peace. That line hit deeper than I expected. At 1:04 a.m., I drafted one last message to my mother. I'm leaving for Dublin Monday. Please stop contacting me unless it's an emergency. I hovered over send hand, trembling. Then I pressed it. The next morning, the retaliation came fast. Posts on Facebook about ungrateful children, Aunt Rose's chain messages about forgiveness, Jenna's cryptic story. Sometimes the ones you love hold you back. They wanted me to feel shame. Instead, I felt still. When Monday came, I zipped up my suitcase. The air in my apartment was cold clean. Every bill in my name, every key in my hand. As I rolled my suitcase to the door, my phone buzzed one last time. A text from Mom. We won't forget this. I typed back, slowly, neither will I. Then I powered it off. At the airport, as the plane engines roared, I thought about every Thanksgiving table, every guilt trip, every silent yes that had built their comfort. And I thought about that one small no that tore it all down. When the wheels left the ground, my heart did too. Dublin was colder than I imagined, gray skies, damp air, and a kind of silence I wasn't used to. But maybe that's why it felt like healing. My company apartment was small, one-bedroom, white walls, a view of the canal. Everything inside belonged to me. Every bill, every key, every decision. No shared accounts. No borrowed peace. For the first week, I moved like someone learning to breathe again. I woke up early, walked to work through cobblestone streets, and drank coffee that actually tasted like mine. At night, I cooked for one and listened to the kettle whistle. Sometimes I caught myself waiting for the next crisis call that never came. The quiet felt strange until it didn't. Mike arrived that Friday, suitcase in hand, and a grin that made the place feel less foreign. You really did it, he said. You left. I laughed softly. Yeah. And somehow I'm still standing. He looked around the apartment. It's peaceful here. Peaceful feels weird, I admitted, but I'll get used to it. We ate dinner on the couch, candles flickering against the rain-streaked window. My phone sat face down on the table, silent. When I finally picked it up, there were no new messages. For the first time in years, the absence of noise felt like a blessing. Days turned into weeks. I got promoted early, led my first project, made friends who didn't need rescuing. One afternoon, I scrolled through old notes, the payments bills, utilities list I'd once treated like scripture. At the bottom, I added one final line, debt cleared emotionally and otherwise. A month later, Mom left a voicemail. Her tone was softer this time. We're fine, sweetheart. Jenna found part-time work. Your dad says hi. I didn't call back, but I smiled anyway. Distance was doing what love never could. It made things kinder. Sometimes I'd stand by the window watching the canal lights ripple. The old Emma would have felt guilty for feeling okay. The new one just whispered, I earned this. Sunday morning, sunlight spilled across the kitchen table, catching the steam from my coffee. No buzzing phone, no new demands, just quiet. I thought about that first text, the one that ended 15 years of family peace. You'll take care of us. Maybe once I would have, but not anymore. I used to mistake being needed for being loved. Now I know real love doesn't drain you, it steadies you. I looked out over the Dublin skyline, smiling to myself. Peace didn't come with fireworks, it came with silence. If you've ever chosen peace over guilt, share your story below. You're not alone.